Hey everyone, I'm Adam, amateur artist. This is Egum, professional cheeseburger eater. Let's go make some art. Good job. Hey everyone, thank you for tuning in again to my YouTube channel, my new YouTube channel. My name is Adam. Today I'm going to be drawing something that's very near and dear to me, possibly the most important thing in my life, and that is Mooj, my dog that passed away a few years ago. A lot of people know me on my social media from Egum and Mother Fluffer, my dog, my black dog, and my three-legged cat. But Mooj came before them, and she was the love of my life. And we were together for about 15 years, and I love drawing her. I always have loved drawing her whole life. And I love sharing her and stories of her, and she's the inspiration for almost all the art that I do. So anytime I get the chance to draw her, it's just it's a great thing. So I thought, for my newest video that I would draw her, but I'm also doing something very new that I've never done, and that's drawing on toned paper. You might have seen this, what I thought was a current new trend of people drawing on brown paper or cardboard. And I actually reached out to my friend Eric Wolfgang, who's an amazing artist. You can find him on Instagram at wolfieboy21. He kind of explained to me what was going on with this whole thing, and a lot of artists like to use this toned paper because it brings out the highlights and the contrasts from light and dark, because it gives you from the get-go a darker, almost like a shaded piece, like shading is already there. So when you use lighter colors on this paper, it pops more. There's more of a contrast. It gives you kind of a head start as far as coloring goes. And this is actually just a piece of cardboard out of Mother Fluffer's Fancy Feast box. There's like 3 of them in every box, and I kept throwing them away, and I picked one out the other day, and I was like, there's a lot I could do with this, so I'm going to start keeping them and drawing on them. So what I've done here is I always start with shapes, and Mooj's head, the way I draw it, is always just like a ball, a circle. And Mooj had huge ears, which she was a mix of Chihuahua and Papillon. And Papillon is French for butterfly, and so the name for the dog comes from their ears that give them a butterfly shape. Almost exactly. Her ears were amazing. And they're probably one of the key parts for her and drawing her. So that's usually where I start when I draw her or Egum. I start with their noses, because it gives me kind of a central point to work out from, almost no pun intended, but a butterfly effect, and everything kind of falls in place. So her head is a circle that becomes a triangle with her ears, and then her body is just an oval. And I'm kind of sketching it out on this cardboard, and it's hard to see sometimes with the sketch. And right now I'm using my pencil, which is just a mechanical pencil. It's a Graph Gear 500 0.7 lead. I like it because it's got the grip at the front, the metal grip, because I always drop my pencil as I'm drawing. So I just did a very loose sketch, and now I'm kind of going back with some details, because when I start the inks, I want to have more than a loose sketch to work on, and making sure that that I have the details set there keeps me from making mistakes that I can't change. Later on, there will be there's something I did with one of her hands that I wasn't happy with, but you'll see some of the fixes, and again, like Bob Ross says, happy little accidents that you can always end up making fit into your picture. So for those who don't know Mooj, or didn't know Mooj before she passed, I have to say I'm an extremely lucky person to have Egum, who I swear Mooj is in there or right next to him, kind of telling him what to do and how to drive Papa crazy. But she was a stray, literally found in an alley by a dumpster when she was 4 months old. And a friend of mine brought her to my brother's place, and they couldn't keep her overnight because of the landlord, so I volunteered to take her for the night until we found her, the owners. And I made an earnest attempt to find the owners. And 15 years later, we had one of the best times in my life that I'll ever have. She went everywhere with me in my backpack. That was her favorite safe place that she loved. And from the movies to Lollapalooza to traveling on airplanes and cars and drink and draws and people's houses and grocery shopping, she went everywhere. And now Egum does the same thing, and he's such a sweet boy. I'm very lucky to have him. And I always think of him as Mooj's last gift to me. It's a hard, bittersweet tug of war. If she was still here, Egum wouldn't be here. So he was definitely a gift from her, and I'm so lucky. So back to the drawing, and I draw her and him and the three of them in my Moojigum cartoon series, which I'm hoping to turn into a book. So you'll be able to hear so many stories of her and him and the three of them as we go forward on my channel here and this journey of art and learning. But back to the drawing, I've started my inks here, and I'm using an 01, a number 1 Pigma Micron ink. And I like these because they're waterproof after you use them. I would let them sit for 5 minutes or so before you hit them with water if you're going to watercolor, which I do love doing, and I'll be doing that very soon in one of my next videos. But they're very quality, one of the best. A lot of people use them, and they're relatively affordable. I recommend signing up on the Michaels. If you have a Michaels near you, you can even use the website, and they don't sponsor my video, but I always wait until they have a sale, and I'll be able to grab a handful of art supplies for they usually have like a buy 3 get 1 or 2 free, whether it's the Pigmas or the Copic sketch markers that I like to use, and I'll be using those later as well. So I'm just going over my inking my pencils that I did, and I again very happy with my pencils that I used as my sort of map here when it comes to inking, so that I know what I'm doing and I can get those details down pat. And even still, this is still just a loose inking, a loose sketch. I'm going to be going over the ink lines again later on with a darker, thicker Pigma, and one that I really enjoy using, that I use a lot, that you'll see in a minute. So the inks are done. The pencils are still there. Some people leave the pencils. I prefer to get rid of them once I've got all the inks and the loose inks in place. I like to get rid of the pencils with my putty eraser there.
Hey buddy, you having reps? You resting? Good job. That's good job. Scratch your bum. Scratch your butt. Say hi. Say hi. All right. Love you, buddy.
So it wouldn't be complete without a cameo from Egum, and we'll be able to see more of him as this journey goes as well. He's such a good guy. He's definitely my best friend, and I'm so lucky to have him. So here we're using we're getting into the markers, and what I'm using are these Copic sketch markers, and it's amazing. I found that there's 4 colors that match Mooj's colors, or real colors, exact. They couldn't be a better match. And I remember when I found them, I showed my brother, and who shout out to my brother Joe Crone. He's also an artist and a writer. You can find him at Joe Crone on Instagram, and he manages All Yeah Comics and Skokie, so go stop by and say hi. But these markers that I got, if you're interested in picking them up, it's the Copic Sketch markers. It's E43, that's a dull ivory. E59, that's a walnut. That's the darker brown. The ivory is the lightest that I use for her eyebrows. The walnut is for her head. Then I use an E35, that's chamois, I think is how you pronounce it. And that's like the medium brown for her ears. And then just straight black, 100. Those were the markers that I used, and that's all she is as far as colors go. And then her body is just white. She had a brown heart on her back that was the same color as her head, and a little bit by her butt, by her tail. So here are my Tombow dual brush pens, and this is a grayscale set that my brother got me a while back, a few years ago actually, and I love these things. They're great for shading. Sometimes you can use a darker color of whatever color you're using to shade. Sometimes you just want to use grayscale to create shade. Sometimes you can use both, like I did on my previous video with Big Bird and Snuffleupagus. But these are amazing markers, and they last so long. Like the set has lasted me 3 years, and some of them I've used, they've dried up, but some of them I'd say more than half the set is still going strong. This is a brand new set that I recently got to replace the ones that I use so much. And here I'm just using the lightest, or the second to the lightest shade, and I'm blending that. I'm using a shade darker to hit the real close nooks and crannies, crevice and creases in there. Shout out to the Craftsman, my uncle the Craftsman. And then once I hit the darker on the crevice and creases, then I use the lighter one to pull it out, similar to what I did with the yellows on my Big Bird from the previous video. And I like to, you want to hit, when you're using shadows and dealing with shading, you want to think of where the light is coming from, what places are receding or divots or underneath your arm, what's casting a shadow, and where would it go? Where would that shadow go? Along the body, under the chin, maybe under her tummy, her ears, stuff like that. And then one of my favorite parts, and this is where using this toned paper, it really, really shows. This is just a Jelly Roll. I use my Jelly Roll 5 a lot, and I use my Jelly Roll 10 pens, the white pens. And for me, they're the best. There's one more that I'll be using for her eyes, and that's the Signo Uniball white for her eyes. But with this toned paper, anytime you use something white on it is what I learned, that it just pops so well. It's really, really awesome how it does that. And so I'm just kind of going around her body and hitting all the places that not necessarily would catch light, but she was white, her body was all white. So I want to make sure that at this point I'm not coloring it in. I had decided not to color her in and just do it white on the outside, giving the idea along the edges that she is white, just implying it. But then I thought I looked at it, and as much as I liked it, I thought of something else that you'll see in a minute that I wanted to do with it. And here I'm just going over every time I hit a drawing with those whites. You want to go back and with your pens that you inked with, and just kind of touch it up. Make sure she's got a good outline. Make sure your character has a good outline. And again, I told someone at the friend today that I saw, he was talking about how his art wasn't as good as other people's, and that's why he wasn't really pursuing it so much as he wanted to. But it doesn't matter. Your style is all that matters. Don't compare your work to anyone else's. You are your only critic that matters. And as long as you like it and you've developed your style, then that's all that anything matters. So with that, as you Oh, and here's the graphic, the Pigma graphic number 1 that I'm using. It's a real thick line. It's got a different tip on it, and I wanted that on one side of her to show that maybe it was a little bit darker on one side than the other. So I used that just on the edge of her entire side, and then on the other side is a thinner, my number 1 to my number 5.
What's going on over here? Hey, you. Diddly dee. You having nap time? What are you doing? Whoa! That's good stuff.
So here's my Uniball Signo that I'm going to be using for her eyes. And giving the eyes just a little glint of white makes them three-dimensional, makes them come to life. My good friend Ryan Wynn, Ryan Inking Wynn on Instagram, he has helped me a lot with my eyes, and they're not perfect yet. I'm still learning how to get different expressions out of them, but one thing he pointed out was always think about where the glint would be, where it would be shining on them. So, and you can see it gives them a dimension that it's so great. So at that point I was done, but I was looking at it and there was so much more life to give this drawing. So I grabbed my Prismacolor. It's a Prismacolor Premier White, just straight up white. And I bought a pack of these, I think like 6 of them or something for like $5. And coloring over this toned paper, it just made her pop right off the page. And what I'm doing is I'm going around the edge a little darker along the kind of in tandem with the Jelly Roll 5 that I used, and I'm making that a darker line than the inside, like her belly, her cheeks. They're a little lighter, and around the edges it's a darker press, and it just gave her a dimension. It gave her a shade. It gave her body a little bit of roundness, which it's just amazing how it pops off the toned paper. Now these guys you might have seen me use in my previous video with Big Bird and Snuffleupagus. This is my Prismacolor Premier set of 24 pencils, and this is a highlighting and shading set, but it's got some amazing 80s colors in it that I love. And Mooj, if nothing else, she was an 80s dog. She was an 80s puppy, and she and I shared that. And it sounds like hyperbole, but I don't know what it was, 80s music, 80s movies. She would be glued to the TV whenever I'd play Breakfast Club or some John Hughes movie, 16 Candles. And when I played 80s music, she seemed more relaxed than anything. So I'm the same way. So I'm using these. I got the idea to create, I wanted to add some color, just crazy colors to it. So I got the idea to create 2 lights up above her, which you'll see I turn them into spotlights because I'm giving Mooj the spotlight here. So I wanted to do that. And I used a very neon blue and a very neon pink for 2 spotlights that you can see there. And I'm coloring in where that would hit her. So on her, on the right side of the paper, the blue would hit harder, and on the left side the pink would hit harder. But there would be a crossover towards the middle where you get a little bit of both. And I'm hitting the places. You'll notice I don't do her underbelly, I don't do her hand on the left side, I don't do under her tail, but I'm hitting her ears, the points of her ears, because the light is shining right on those. I'm hitting a little bit of the top of her head, of the circle part of her head. Her cheeks would be pronounced, so I'm hitting that a little bit. Her hand that's up in the air, hitting that with the blue. The tip of her tail, a little bit with the pink. A little bit on the shoulder with the pink. And what it did, it just gave her an 80s vibe, a Miami Vice vibe, which is all stuff that I love. And gave a dynamic to the drawing that it didn't have without. Don't be afraid to do that. add colors, go crazy. Sometimes I get a little stuck with like, no, this is how it should be, this is how it would be, instead of, well, how do you want it? You know, how do you, what colors are you feeling like today? So you can see I drew in the lights. I'm going to color those in and give them like literal spotlights that you would have on a stage. You know, this is her stage, this is her time to shine, so to speak, and I'm giving her the spotlight, so I'm going crazy with the colors, and I really liked how they turned out. Here I'm just going over again with the inks, and you're going to go back and forth with ink, color, pencil, paint, whatever it is, until you're happy. Don't worry about, you know, what you think someone else would do or how someone else would do it. Give your art what you want it to have, because it doesn't need anything. What do you want it to have? So here's my my attempt at overhead spotlights from what I remember back in I used to sing in a band underneath those hot lights that make you sweaty on stage. That was so much fun. Giving a little highlight with my pencil again, my Prismacolor. Little light shining down on her, so you can see where it's coming from. And by no means am I, 100% happy with, I guess, how I depicted these lights or how I depicted where they're coming from. But I guess I should say I am happy with them. But I'll be the first to tell you that I've got a lot to learn, and that's the whole point of this channel, is learning as we go. And it's so awesome that you guys are with me doing that. I really like how it turned out. My first time on toned paper, a toned piece. So there she is, my Muji, the star of my Muji Goom cartoons. So you guys, thank you so much for tuning in. Thanks for stopping by with my channel. If you ever want to support the channel directly and see more videos more often, you can reach out and ask me for a commission. You can check out my Big Cartel store and buy some prints or some art, adamcrone.bigcartel.com, or you can join my Patreon at patreon.com/adamcrone, and those links will all be in the description below. Make sure you subscribe to the channel, like the video, comment. I'll answer all the comments that you post, all of them. And until the next time, hopefully I'll have another video out later this week, so stay tuned. Sit, Muji, sit. Good dog.